Good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler program. It's already Tuesday. It looks like it's May 11th, and we're moving right along. I'm so thankful that you all are tuning in, and if this is your first time, I hope that you're in for a treat. Our goal every chance we get to talk, our goal is to make sure that we leave the conversation more inspired, more challenged, and more motivated to become better than we did when we first came to the conversation. So if this is your first time joining me, hang in, hang on. I think you're in for a treat. I want to ask you this, just to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about this evening. Do you keep clothes in your closet that you can't wear any longer? Clothes that don't fit, that are just hanging there? Within that same vein, I want to ask you this. Do you keep people in your lives who no longer fit, who are just hanging there, taking up space, taking up real estate? I want to probe. I want to talk about that. Again, our goal is to make sure that we don't waste these 1,800 seconds, you all. Listen, we'll be right back, and we're going to chat about this. Meanwhile, go and tell somebody, share, comment, and, tell them, come on, let's pick up some passengers and do what we got to do. All right, I will be right back after this. But again, do you keep clothes in your closet that you don't wear? Do you keep people in your lives that no longer fit? I'll be right back.
Let's talk to Cub. One more thing, like, subscribe and share. Come on, let's talk to Cub.
All right, I'm back, and what a question that is. We're going to have a deep conversation this evening. Good evening. Listen, if you're joining for the first time, then just make sure that you subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so, then make sure that you click on that notification bell. It lets you know whenever I've gone live, whenever I've uploaded new content. And as you're coming to the chat, do me a favor, go ahead and do a thumbs up on the conversation. I hope we're going to have a very inspiring, motivating, and challenging conversation. And I'm only here when I show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm only here for 1,800 seconds. And we're reading from this book, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. I know I tend to say that very quickly because I wrote the book. It's my 7th book. But the goal is this. The goal is this, that we leave better than we did when we came into the conversation. If you're looking for the book, go on over to www.gbcutler.com, or you can go over to amazon.com and pick it up. All right. And I want to shout out our LTTC VIPs. Got so much to say in such a little time to say it in. Our LTTC VIPs for the evening are Audrey Winfrey. Lady, how are you? And then Tracy Johnson. Hello. Hey, passengers, make sure that you all say a special hi to Tracy. I think this may be Tracy's first time, so you all make sure that you say hi to Tracy. And then Yvonne Jones. Those are our LTTC VIPs for the evening, so make sure that you all do a special shout out to Tracy. But you all, here's the question for the evening. Do you have clothes in your closet that you no longer wear, that no longer fit? And do you keep people in your lives who no longer fit? You all know what we do. Every Tuesday, I'll read the quotes from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday for Thursday, we'll talk about the quotes for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. When we get to a Saturday quote in the book, use it to start a conversation, as part of your meditation, all of that kind of stuff. But I want to get started. I want to get started with the conversation because I want to hear how you all really feel about this. I'm going to go directly to the quote from May 8th, and it says, let me pull up that quote from May 8th. Yes, that's funny. I know I wrote the book, so I should know these quotes by heart. But it's over 366 of them, you all. So let me get it here. And the quote, it says, stop pushing against the wall. Wow. Stop pushing against the wall and just lean on it for a change. Everything doesn't come to challenge you. Some things come to give you rest. Some things come to give you rest. Have you ever met people who are always in fight mode? I know I have. In my life, I've met people that are always in fight mode, always on the defensive. I've met some people who don't seem to be happy unless they are fighting. They probably fight with the spouse before leaving to work. They probably fight with the children before the children are off to school. They probably fight with the dog and the goldfish if they have one. They probably go to work to fight with the co-workers and the managers. They probably go to lunch and fight with the people over in the restaurant. They probably fight with drivers, other people in traffic. They probably fight with their friends. Just fighting. I've met people who are so engaged in fighting until it looks like everything to them is a fight. Have you all ever met people like that? Every single thing, every single situation, every single circumstance is a fight to them. The waiter in the restaurant brings a steak that's not necessarily cooked to perfection, and that's a fight. The delivery person left the box on the east end of the porch instead of the west end of the porch, and that's a fight. The poor neighborhood kids rode their bicycles on the sidewalk in front of the house instead of the street, and that's another fight. And I'm not talking about people who are just assertive, but I'm talking about people who are there's a difference between assertive and being confrontational and provocative. I'm talking about people who like to provoke others and create anxiety. People who always see the bad in a situation. People who are quick and more apt to really be disagreeable. I learned a long time ago that if you just take life on life's terms, then life might not take you through so many turns. Let me say that again. If you take life on life's terms, then life might not take you through so many turns. There are some situations that don't create resistance. Not everything is pushing back. Not everything is trying to force you against your will. But if you're used to pushing and pushing and pushing, you never realize that no one is pushing back. Everybody in your mind is pushing. Everybody in your mind is fighting. Everybody in your mind is antagonistic. Imagine an individual who always feels the need to push through. That's the same individual who will come up against a brick wall and just keep pushing and never realize the wall is not even pushing back. Every situation was not meant for us to fight. Every situation wasn't meant to fight us. Every situation is not meant to harm you. Some situations are meant to help you. But we have to exercise discernment. We have to be able to know what comes to help us versus what comes to harm us. We've got to know that. And we have to be a little more discerning between hostile situations and helpful situations. Between allies and adversaries, between friends and foes, we've got to know the difference. We've got to practice and do life enough until we recognize everything is not against me. There are some things that are for me. Every situation does not come to break us, but there are some situations that come to just give us a break. Everybody and everything ain't coming to break me, but there's some things that come so I can take a break. And we just need to learn the difference. That's what that quote is about. Sometimes we need to learn to step back and just say, what is this thing doing in my life? What is this situation doing in my life? What is the purpose of this thing or this person or this situation? Because it's not all the time that I have to push. Sometimes all we have to do is rest. And I think I probably pull a little piece of that serenity prayer when it comes to knowing when to push and when to lean and just take a break. Sometimes, y'all, we just simply need to say, God, grant me the wisdom to recognize the difference between when I need to push and when I just need to lean and rest. There's some walls that we don't need to push against. Some walls are built just for us to be able to lean on. And I know that's a quote from Saturday, and I tend not necessarily to read the Saturday quotes, but that one resonated with me because I thought, how many times in life, especially during this day and age, are we so engaged in fights? Think about it. In the political climate, there's a fight. In the economic climate, there's a fight. Within the racial tension of our country, a fight. Dealing with this pandemic and the health condition and the health disparities, a fight. Everything seems to present an opportunity to fight, but I offer us the ability to know when to lean against the wall and just breathe. And not only know how to inhale, but to when to exhale. And just say, all right, hands up, I don't have to fight this time. and count your blessings every time you realize you're in a situation where you don't have to fight. I wanted to share that one with you all. I hope you're moved and motivated by that to realize there are some opportunities that come to give us a break, but they don't come to break us. All right. Thought I'd share that with you all. So now I want to get to the quote from May the 9th. The quote from May 9th says, if you trust God during what looks like the foolish times, he won't fool you during the trying times. If you trust God in what looks like the foolish times, he won't fool you during the trying times. One of my favorite Psalms, and we used to hear this sometimes, especially when people die. At funerals, we hear this all the time. It says, so teach us to number our days. You all, I used to get so tired of hearing that at funerals. And then I realized that's not what it's about. It's about an admonition for the living to be able to use our time wisely and to be able to execute wisdom and apply wisdom in life's lessons from one day to the next. In all of our experiences, we have the opportunity to apply what we've already learned. It's about applying wisdom. And so one of the things that I've learned is that life provides cycles and opportunities for balance. Life provides cycles and opportunities for balance. And this particular quote, it is a reminder that we have to strike a balance in terms of how we live. We can't always lead or live our lives by logic, but sometimes we have to live and lead with our hearts. That's what this quote is about. Let me read it again. It's not about living and leading with logic, but sometimes it's simply about the heart. If you trust God during what looks like foolish times, by the heart, live by your heart. Then it says he won't fool you during the trying times. There are moments that may look foolish to others and they may look doubtful to us. There are moments that look skeptical to everybody else, but we've got to learn how to live and lead with the right part. Ask yourself, is this a head situation or is this a heart situation? And this quote is not necessarily, yes, I get it, that I'm a faith-based person, that I'm a spiritual person, but this quote is not just about righteous living, but it is a reminder that there are times, there are moments in life that are not relegated or restricted to just logic and rationale. Not everything we can figure out through thought and through thought pattern. There are some moments where you have to live and lead with your heart. And I believe that if we handle those moments properly and correctly, then there will be other moments when life will just handle us correctly. In particular, and I have to share this with you all, I'm thinking about what really comes to mind as I was rereading this quote. What comes to mind is a dear friend of mine. She is in a position where she's on the world stage. And I think those of you who have been following me for a while, who've been joining these conversations for a while, may know that the mayor of Atlanta is a very dear personal friend of mine. And so now she's on this world stage. She has this position where she's on the world stage. And recently she decided that she was not going to seek re-election. She's at a position where if she were to seek re-election, the polls say that beyond 70% she would win. She's raised enough campaign money to win the re-election, but she decided that she's not going to re-enter the race for mayor of Atlanta. And in a press conference, I was so impressed with her because what she said when she was asked about why she no longer decided to seek re-election, she said this. Mayor of Atlanta on a world stage, but this is her response. She said, I know what I know. That was it. She said, I know what I know. And she said that within each of our hearts, there is an inner voice. And that for her, this was one of those moments where she had to listen to the inner voice. I'm telling you, the woman could win re-election come January. She could be inaugurated again. And so it's like, what is my takeaway from her conversation when I merge it with this quote? If you trust God during what looks like foolish times, you all, it's about sometimes learning how to live and lead by your heart and not by your head. It may look foolish to other people, but learn to lead and know when to lead and live with your heart. And so this evening, if I could offer us anything in a moment of inspiration and a moment of challenge, I challenge us and I offer us the gift of hearing the inner voice. That is a voice that no one can take discrepancy with. It is your inner voice. And you don't have to be able to rationalize it. You don't have to be able to put it in a logic format, rhythm, or pattern. But you understand and you know when you've heard that inner voice, and you know when to lead with your heart and to live by your heart versus through logic. It's not always about logic. And I know, as much of a logical person as I am, and I try to be a problem solver and I try to be a fixer, there are moments when I have to completely submit to living and leading life by my heart. I offer you all the same gift. All right, I want to go to the quote from May 10th. If you're just joining for the first time, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel and then click on the notification bell. All right, it lets you know when I've uploaded new content, when I've gone live. If you don't have this book, run on over to Amazon.com and pick it up. But you don't need the book to join the conversation. You don't need the book to join the conversation. And yes, I am reading your chats back and your conversations with me as it pertains to people who fuss and fight all the time. Yes, you all, lots of people, they just fuss all the time. And you're right. It is absolutely exhausting because they fight all the time. Think about those times. I want to go back to that quote. Think about the times when you know people who fight and fuss all the time, and you've gone there to lend a helping hand. Whether it's by phone, email, text, or in person, you've gone there to lend a helping hand. And the next thing you know, they had braced themselves for a fight with you. And you're thinking, whoa, I'm just here to offer help. I'm just here to offer you a shoulder to cry on or an ear to listen. All right. So now I want to go into the quote for May 10th. I want to go to this quote from May 10th. I'm so glad that you all decided to share this space with me because it warms my heart. If you haven't done so, please make sure that you do a thumbs up on the conversation. All right. The quote from May 10th. And it says, believe in God without the word in. I know it's sort of catchy like a riddle, but I'll explain it in just a moment. Believe in God without the word in. Don't just believe that he is, but believe what he says. So don't just believe in God, but believe God. This quote, you all, it challenges us to really examine our belief system. That's the only thing I want to get us to do this evening, is to challenge us to examine our belief system. This is an opportunity for us to examine how much faith and confidence do we put into the strength of one's character and into the veracity or the truthfulness of their words. This quote is about more than just, comfort and confidence that we can place in people. It's more than that, but it goes one step further, and it gives us the opportunity to ask ourselves this: how much do we believe? How much do we really believe when it pertains to an individual? Think about it. Do we believe in them? That's one thing. Do we believe them? When we look at the words and we listen to the words that's coming out of their mouths, because it's one thing to theoretically believe in an individual. How often do we say, listen, I believe in you. Don't let me down. I believe in you. I'm standing unified. I'm standing in unity. I'm standing in solidarity with you. I believe in you. It's one thing to believe in an individual in terms of their existence and abilities. For example, many of us may say that we believe in God. But it is different to believe the words that an individual speaks. Some of you all may say, Color, I believe in you because I like the motivation. I like what you have to say. But it is different to believe in an individual, yet believe them. Because to say I believe you, it calls us to a practical place where we have to say to ourselves, I believe in you, but do I trust you? And there's a difference between belief and trust. Belief is to believe in your existence, to believe in your capabilities. Trust is to honestly put my confidence in the fact that you will execute what you do for the good of me. That's trust. So as it pertains to God, and I'll tell you this in this quote, as it pertains to God, the question is this: do I really believe like I say I believe? And if not, what do I need to do to strengthen my belief? Let me go somewhere else. Let me put a twist on this. As it pertains to people, here's the question: do I not only believe in them, but can I believe them? Do I not only believe in them, but can I believe them? Can I trust what they say? And if not, your question is, what decisions do I need to make as it pertains to them? These are some challenging questions. Cutler, I didn't come up here for all of that this evening, but I hope that these things probe us and challenge us and motivate us. Because you all know, if you've never been with me or come to one of these conversations, for me, it is all about understanding that we are building habitats, we are building spaces, we are building houses where we live and where we dwell. And there is no reason for us to have a person who is a part of our house if we can't believe them. It sounds very nice and theoretical to say to them, I believe in you. But what good does it do for us to say to somebody, I believe in you, but we won't trust them to help build the foundation of where we're trying to live? We have to ask ourselves, what do I need to do as it pertains to this individual? Right? So as we're thinking about how much do I believe in them, we do an assessment. Do I still keep them as a part of my life or not? Doesn't mean we have to get rid of them, but it gives us the opportunity to do an assessment. I enjoy doing assessments about people who are part of my lives. Because when I do an assessment, and listen, I want to make sure that my position is really clear when I talk about doing assessment and evaluation of the people in my lives. I'm not a proponent of just throwing people away, but I'm a proponent of recognizing the gifts and the talents and the virtues of people who I have been blessed to have as a part of my life. Because it doesn't mean none of us are perfect. None of us dot every I and cross every T. I missed a whole lot of them today, just within the past few hours. But what it does, it gives us a chance to say, you know what, I'm glad he's in my life. I'm glad she's in my life. No, maybe I can't believe everything he or she says, but you know what? I'm glad that person is a part of my life. All right, I've got to get to the quote from May 11th. Got to get to that quote because I have something else that I want to do for you all. The quote from May 11th says this. It says, you all hang on, because I opened the conversation this evening by asking you all, do you have clothes in your closet that you can no longer wear? Do you have clothes in your closet that's just hanging there, taking up space? Because analogously, I want to ask us, do we have people in our lives who no longer fit? People who are just taking up space, just hanging on the hanger. All right, so let's get ready for this one. The quote from May 11th says, in order to kiss the right people hello, sometimes you've got to kiss the wrong people goodbye. I love this quote. Sometimes in order to kiss the right people hello, sometimes you've got to kiss the wrong people goodbye. I know I wrote it, but it resonates with me every single time I read it. Why? This quote is about knowing how and when to let go, to release, and to say goodbye. It makes us ask ourselves, why do we hang on to unproductive and sometimes possibly toxic relationships? I hope it makes us think very deliberately about our inability to sometimes let go. I hope it makes us think about why we hang on. I'm not trying to tell us to get rid of anybody, but I'm just saying we have to think about, why do we hang on to some people? I hope it makes us look at the process of letting go. I hope this quote helps us to see the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, and sometimes the pain of letting go. But I hope it helps us to not get stuck on this side of the anger, this side of the pain, this side of the resentment, and this side of the bitterness. I hope it helps us to not become comfortable with what we know until we are afraid to step into what we don't know. Sometimes we don't let go. We don't release because we are so comfortable with what we have, even if what we have is pain. Wow. We are so comfortable with what we have, even if what we have is resentment and bitterness. Sometimes we can become so comfortable with pain, with the pain of our present, until we will forego the promise of our future. Why? Because we're comfortable with what we know. And what I know is the pain of my present. And it causes me to not even think about the promise of my future. I forfeit the promise of my future because I'm so stuck on the pain of my present. Why? Because it's comfortable and familiar. And we stick with the familiar. But this quote says, in order to kiss the right people hello, sometimes you've got to kiss the wrong people goodbye. What does that mean? I have to look at my present situation. I just want to remind us. I want to remind us this evening, you all, that we have limited capacity to carry. We have very limited capacities to carry. My hands can only carry so much. We have limited abilities to hold. I can only hold so much. Our vessels, you all, can only carry so much. Our portals can only hold so much. And I want to be very clear, unless we are sometimes willing to empty ourselves of one thing, we can't be refilled with another thing. Sometimes, Auntie, it's good to see you, my friend. Sometimes we don't have room for you all. Sometimes we don't have room for the right thing because we're carrying the wrong thing. We can't grip the new thing because we're still holding on to the old thing. So what do you want to do, Cutler? What is our conversation tonight? I want to offer us the gift of inventory. Here I go again. I want to offer us the gift of being intentional and deliberate about when we choose to release people. I'm not saying we have to, but I'm offering us the gift of being intentional and deliberate when we do choose to release people. It's not necessarily my position to decide that anybody is a bad person, because you heard me say just a few moments ago, I missed a whole lot of I's and T's today. In fact, I probably dotted some T's and crossed some I's, got it all mixed up. So I know we are none perfect. So it's not my position to decide that anybody is a bad person or a good person. But what I can do in my assessment is to decide whether or not that is a good person for me or for my life, and for the direction of and the vision of my life. You may be an absolutely wonderful person, but not wonderful for me. You might be a beautiful person, but not beautiful enough to help paint my canvas. You might be a loving person, but just incapable of loving me. Doesn't mean that these are bad people, but not necessarily good for me. So how I respond to what you've shown me, what you've offered me, what you've given me, how do I do that? I said it earlier. I go through my closet every year and I decide what doesn't fit. I decide what doesn't feel good if the fabric doesn't feel good. I decide what no longer serves a purpose, what's just hanging there and taking up space. I also decide what someone else might be able to use more than me. I grew up, and I'll share this with you in a moment of transparency. You all have often heard me say I grew up poor. And I used to think there were times when, Mama would get clothes, and I have older siblings, and I would get hand-me-downs. There were some things that when I got them from my older brother no longer could fit them. They served me a greater purpose. Sometimes there are people in our lives who no longer fit our lives. Doesn't mean we're better than them. I want to be clear about that. They just don't fit. And they just might serve someone else a better purpose than they serve us. All I can offer this evening, you all, is the gift of inventory. It's the gift of inventory. I'm so thankful that you all decided to share these 1,800 seconds with me. I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 o'clock. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe and then click the notification bell so you know whenever I'm live and whenever I've uploaded new content. These quotes are coming from this book right here. Billboards to Better. Because what are we doing? We're riding along the highway. We're reading the billboards. Some apply, some don't. But the ones that apply, we're taking those as we head to the space in this place called Better. And we're picking up fellow passengers. We're saying, hey, hop in the car. We're going somewhere. And we're getting there together. I want to end by sharing another poem that I wrote, and it's called I Can Go On. Because as I think about people who sometimes don't fit, they don't fit our lives anymore, or their utility, their purpose has run out. Doesn't mean they weren't good for our lives while they were good for it. Sometimes their purpose or their utility has run out. So how do we learn to release and let them go? How do we release and let them go? I want to read this poem. It's in my third book, Who We Once Were. These books are all on Amazon or my website. This poem says, I can't go on reaching for a hand that never reaches back, or longing for a heart that chooses never to be loved, or hoping for what should be, although you would never let it be. I can't go on wanting you in my life, although you've never been there, or shedding pools of tears while you only ignore my cries, or smiling at noontime while you only look to the night. I decline to be your trophy for display on your shelf. I'd rather be rust in your life if I can't shine for myself, a mere spot in your world if I can't sparkle on my own. I'm tired of looking at your yesterdays and dreaming, only dreaming of my tomorrows, asking you for utopias as you offer me worlds of sorrow. What's done is all over. What's over is now done. For what I thought I had lost, I see I've now won. Nothing is what you gave, yet all is what you had. But the song that I now sing is sufficient to make me glad. You were never there to hold my hand. You left me all alone. But a greater force is leading me. So I know I can go on. I can go on. I want to thank you all for joining me, for tuning in for these past 1,800 seconds. Please make sure, if you haven't, that you subscribe. And I'm here every Tuesday, every Thursday at 8 o'clock, trying to make sure that for these 1,800 seconds, we think, we reason, we rationalize, we live with our heads and with our hearts, and that we are inspired to become better. My goal is to make sure we try to show up better tomorrow than we did today. Today wasn't a wash, but there's always better on the other side of tomorrow. You all listen. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much for sharing whatever space you've allowed me to come in. I want to thank you. And I want to say this to you. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. You all stay safe, stay sane, keep your heads up, but more important, keep your hopes up, and know that from my heart to yours, every time I say this, I mean it. There is so much love. I will see you all the next time. Good night.